since we're talking about time travel, that brings us to the Montauk Project, which is one of the first things you and I discussed. Break that down for us, and then talk about, like, for those who don't know, like, where is Montauk and what is it like out there, and then get into the project.
So Long Island is a very long island. It's like 150 miles long, and Montauk is at the very tip, and actually they call it the end.
Right.
Yes.
And there's rocky shores out there, so it is really good wave destination for surfing.
Yep.
Which is why I spend so much time out there. But at the very tip, there's a bunch of surf spots, and one of them is called radar towers because you line up with that radar tower. So when I was in college, I started sneaking into the base to see what was up there because there's a series of books. There's like 6 of them, but the first one is the one that really kind of solidifies the legend of Montauk. And the dude, he was a radio operator, I think out of Stony Brook or Bellhaven, one of these advanced labs and so he really was a radio operator there.
Right.
But he gets into time travel and all of the legend that's in that book was the groundwork for the Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. So he talks about psychic kids, and they use the kids because the veil between the ethereal world and the real world is thinner for younger people. So according to him, they had a chair in the radar tower where these kids would sit, and they would use the radar system to basically concentrate remote viewing. And they called them the Montauk Boys. Those were like the equivalent of the gang of kids in Stranger Things. And Stranger Things was actually it was called the Montauk Project, the working title. And then they threatened a lawsuit, the guy who wrote the book. So they changed it to Indiana or wherever it is.
Right.
But that legend, there's definitely some concrete stuff in there, like the fact that was the most advanced radar system in the world. Mm-hmm. And also it's tied to the Philadelphia experiment, which I'm sure your viewers are familiar with, but it was like so what he claims in the book is that, and the dates of the Philadelphia project are hard to nail down. Yeah. But according to him in the book, it happened on August 12th, 1943. And then according to the book, the Demogorgon, which he calls Ben in the book, mm-hmm. was summoned by one of the psychics 40 years to the day later on August 12th, 1983. And he claims that there's like 40-year time cycles that make this wormhole more powerful during those time periods. And so that's when, according to him, the main psychic, the most talented one, he summoned this beast out of the ether, and it destroyed the whole base. And that's when it shut down on August 12th, 1983. Now, I went on August 12th, 2023.
Oh,
which
nice.
is the next 40-year time cycle.
Oh, shoot.
And I was with my wife. She was like, I'm not going into the radar tower. But it's really bizarre. They have all this old equipment that's still in there. It's all like graffiti. There's like alien paintings in there. It's really, really creepy. And the stairs were rusted out since the last time I'd been there. So I couldn't make it all the way onto the roof. But I filmed through in there, and then we're leaving, and the sun's about to set. And these people are like walking towards the base, and they're like, oh, are you guys here for the meteor shower? I was like, what? There's a meteor shower over the radar tower and so my wife and I watched the meteor shower. And then the last thing in the story is that we went home. I was actually staying at my buddy's house because we were renting my house out there. We rent it every summer. And I went back to my buddy's house, and it was like, literally, I got the Doppler radar and all that. It was the most violent electrical storm I've ever experienced in my life.
That's crazy.
Just completely, like the loudest thunder I've ever heard. And the synchronicity of that is just weird.
Yeah, that's super bizarre. I love that. There's supposedly tunnels, right, underneath?
Yeah,
facility?
and I've seen like on Reddit and stuff like that, people claiming that they have found them, because what's happening now is the bluffs are being eroded.
Oh, wow.
And according to the guy who wrote the Montauk Project, they filled it in with cement.
Right.
But these, like the pillboxes that were all perched on these cliffs, are literally falling into the sea, and they actually create like little surf spots, little sandbars. But I haven't seen the tunnels, but there definitely was during World War II a submarine base off the back of Montauk Harbor, which is just like a mile away. There's a harbor right back there, and Navy Beach is where the sub base was. So it's possible that there's, this complex where they landed the subs and, yeah,
Like,
I haven't done as much research as I would like to into the actual, like what kind of documents can uncover, but,
yeah.
folks, stay tuned on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you were saying with the electricity consumption, and the
Yeah,
receipts.
that's one thing that I was able to find was like the LIPA, they were pulling, this is in the 60s, they were pulling 100 grand a month
Yeah,
in the 60s. So
that's
index that for
crazy.
inflation, it's a lot more. And
Somewhere,
there are also like photos of papers that were found on the base, and it is bizarre. If you walk through the base in the barracks, there's like one room that literally was like, it's been graffitied now, but it was like painted like like a kid's room, but like with all these rainbows and stuff like that. And then there are, which he claims in the book, that he took a plasma torch and like cut power to get the Demogorgon to go away. And you can actually see torch marks in the electricity room.
nice,
It's pretty bizarre.
nice.
But the base is just clearly like just up and abandoned. So a lot of the buildings are still standing. They're like collapsing. And you can still see the huge bunkers that they had for the artillery batteries. And I mean, those are massive bunkers in and of itself. So
Sure.
to imagine that there's some kind of subterranean connection between them is not far-fetched.
Yeah, I saw someone had a video, I think on YouTube, and they were saying that there's manholes all over the place, and that
Yes, there are.
they did
Yeah.
some type of ground imaging and were seeing big structures. And I believe it was in the same video that they found receipts for like $80,000 worth of food that was going down there at a time when I believe it was supposedly shut down.
Yep.
So
And I've talked to locals, like all kinds of crazy stories of UFO sightings out there, and like guys in black cars firing out there in the dead of the night, and they many of them, particularly this one guy Jimmy Ding, who's my buddy out there. He's been out there since the 50s. He said that that base was staffed like through the 80s. So
that's insane, dude. I was thinking about how I saw somewhere the frequencies that were going off with the radar and stuff, and things that they were supposedly doing at Montauk would affect animals. And I was curious if you thought that might have some effect on people, and maybe that has something to do with like what the heck is going on out there.
Yeah, I found a newspaper article about bizarre deer activity.
Yeah.
Getting back with the deer, smashing into in the middle of the winter, and it gets dead out there. Like there's very few people out there in the middle of the winter. More now since COVID, but this is back in like the 70s. Deer smashing into the door of the main bar on the main strip called Shagwong's, and like coming out of the woods and literally smashing their heads into this door. And I mean, that's
really weird,
bizarre.
That's really weird.
And also when the radar tower was going, legitimately, if you were listening to the radio, it would blip every time that it swung around. So like every minute or so, it'd be like so it definitely was, broadcasting high-powered radar frequencies into the air.
I think that's possible. We had a lady on who lives above CERN, right? So where they're smashing particles, and she's a scientist, and she believes that the frequencies and the stuff they're doing out there is also affecting people.
It's like in the lampposts on the street.
Right. She said, yeah, it was actually in the lamppost, like it was affecting actually causing like problems in people. I believe that, dude. I think.
Well, when I was in Kenosha, that was the only protest / riot where they used an LRAD, which is a long range acoustic device. It's like a really loud siren, but it literally hurts your ears. And I definitely got hearing loss as a result. I didn't have my earplugs, but they were driving the armored personnel carriers with these LRADs. And it's like, it's a bizarre thing. It almost makes you like feel like you're from the inside of your head. It's like ringing going on. It's really loud.
Yeah. It's worth people later on looking up videos of people getting hit with LRAD devices, because it's kind of terrifying to think about. They can personalize it right to you or the small crowd, but just thinking about what they could do in the future, the bigger one.
Or what they can do right now already, with technology that's way advanced to that.
Exactly. And then then thinking like perhaps they experimented on a lot of this stuff out there in Long Island. Like that's what Montauk was doing, like experimenting with everyone out there. I'm only half joking in the beginning of the show about the experimenting on people in a big way outside of just Montauk Project, because I think these experiments happen on larger parts of the population than a lot of people are willing to believe. For people who think, oh, this is just crazy stuff. Probably not. You're not listening to the show right now because you probably are like totally on board with this. But for those who might hear this and be like, I don't believe it. I think of Operation Sea Spray. Do you know about that?
Nope.
That's in San Francisco in like the 50s, I think. They were just spraying biowarfare, like a chemical agent, into above San Francisco and got people sick. Wow. Because they were testing.
Yeah, so that ties into Manson too.
Right.
That book Chaos by Tom O'Neill.
Yes.
They were definitely handing out drugs to the hippies out in Berkeley.
100%.
And Manson, I mean, that story's crazy. I mean, he committed all these crimes that would not have been, would have been jailable offenses. And he kept getting let off the hook by this totally sketchy prosecutor named Bugliosi, who was tied to all kinds of other stuff if you go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Including like Jack Rube.
That story is insane.
That's a whole other.
Tom O'Neill's been on this show, and so for those who haven't listened to that episode yet, go find it. From a few months ago, right, this summer. That story is insane, but exactly.